Yeah, so just to bring it right back to the beginning, Pat, how did you come across the Pirate Queen first? Where did it come into your life, so to speak?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've always had a great interest in two Mayo people, Michael Davitt and Graineuaile. And in 2006, I did a presentation on the life of Michael Davitt because I thought he was an extraordinary Irishman, an extraordinary Mayo man. And, I heard that John McColgan and Moya Doherty had this vision and that they were working on a show based on the life of the Pirate Queen, Graineuaile. And I thought this is so exciting, and what a subject matter, and they intended that it would be in the musical world, that it would be the next Riverdance, that it would be an epic Irish musical to stand alongside the best musical um, creations of musical theatre. So I listened carefully to the progress of and heard that it was open in Chicago, and actually I intended going to see it,
Right.
and then it moved from Chicago to New York, and a couple of influential critics, for largely musical political reasons, didn't give it the review that it deserved, and it closed prematurely. So I didn't get a chance to go and see it, but I would have gone to Broadway to see it. I was that interested in it. So it closed then, and it was in abeyance for a couple of years. There was nothing done with it. Obviously, they lost a lot of money on it, and they were extremely disappointed. But I got the soundtrack of it, and I couldn't get over it. I just thought it was an incredible musical creation, an incredible score, because it was so evocative, and it was so representative of the west of Ireland and Mayo and that time, and this wild woman of Mayo who defied an empire, and who railed against convention, a woman plying her trade in a male-dominated world, and who got to meet the Queen of England when the greatest leaders in the world at the time couldn't do so, and she sailed up the Thames in her pirate ship to meet the Queen. So I just decided that I'd write to John McColgan and Moya Doherty and asked them, was there any chance that we would be granted an amateur license to stage it.
And what year was this now?
This was in 2008.
Okay.
To stage it in 2000 in spring of 2009.
Right.
And they got back to me quite quickly, and they said that they weren't in a position at that time, due to legal complications, to grant it to anybody. So that was fine. I wrote back to them and I thanked them very much, and I said that unfortunately it was a letter that they probably get every year, that we'll be on to them again the following year. So wrote to them again the following year, which would have been the spring of 2009. And quite quickly they got back, and they said that they would be interested in talking to us about it. They actually called me, John McColgan called me, and he asked if we would travel to Dublin to meet them. So myself and the secretary at the time, Hilary O'Connor, and Michael Serena, who was an experienced committee person, we travelled to Dublin. We met them in Merrion Square, in their Riverdance office, in their head offices in Merrion Square. And I think fortune was a little bit on our side, in that their chief executive at the time was a lady from Mayo who sadly has passed away since. She was from Achill. Egan was her name. And she took a shine to us straight away. But they were very, very nice to us. They were very professional and gave us such a warm welcome. And we laid out our stall and we were well prepared, and we told them what this meant to us, that it was a show that was coming back to its roots. It was a story of Mayo, story of an incredible Mayo woman, and it was coming back to Mayo, and that we would be marketing it in that way, that it was coming home to Mayo, and that we could do a production of it and a presentation of it that no other group in the world could do, because we were Mayo people. It was going to be a Mayo cast. It was going to be as musicians were going to be as local as possible, and they were all going to be Irish musicians. And the other thing that we said to them at the time was that we would be interested, with their permission, in having sean-nós dancing as the dance style in the show, because I always felt that it was more akin to this area and that time, the 16th, 17th century Ireland. And it was actually believed that sean-nós dancing had a Spanish influence, and that it was practiced on board ships at the time, and that's why the feet were close to the ground and the hand movement to keep balance. So we said that it was a very authentic style and very peculiar to the west of Ireland and Mayo in particular, and that we would be interested in having sean-nós dancing. So they were really taken by everything we had to say, and John McColgan spoke then, and he said, "This is yours to do with it what you want." And we just were knocked for six. It's just time I'll never forget. There was the three of us were there and we were speechless. We said, kind of saying to ourselves, are we hearing right? So we have a license to do the show, and we can do what we like with it. And they said, we have a good feeling about this, and instinct tells us that this is a good way to go with the show. And so we were really excited, and they made tea for us and we chatted. And then when we were leaving, I turned around when we were going out the door and I said, "Do you mind me asking you one question?" To the three of them. Why are you doing this? You've invested millions and millions in this show, and it's obviously, you could see that it was very special to them, and still is very precious to them. And you engaged the best people in the world to work on it, and obviously suffered, injustice in that it just didn't have the success that it deserved. And they said, "Well, we're giving you this show because you asked for it," John McColgan said. And he said, "What we particularly liked was that you kept asking." And if you want something, he said, you've got to ask for it. And if you need it badly enough, he said, you'll keep asking. So we went out, we sat down in the brilliant sunshine. It was in May or April, I think, of 2009. We sat on a wall outside, and we smiled and we said, "Did that just happen? And what have we let ourselves in for? We're going to have to pull out all the stops on this, And we asked them to come to see it, and we promised them that we'd treat it with respect, and that they would not regret, making the decision, that we would always be indebted to them, and that we would repay their generosity of spirit in doing it full justice. So then, Oisín, we set about making plans, and we first of all, they were kind enough to give us the image, the marketing image, which is a beautiful image that they used on the Broadway production, and we got a main sponsor on board, Irish Pride, who were very good to us, and we adopted their logo at the time, which was "It's a matter of pride." And really, with Ballinrobe Musical Society, with the Pirate Queen, it was all a matter of pride, because we're representing Mayo, we're representing, the style of music and the style of dance that came from this area, and that was, played and practiced in this area. So we got John Rowe involved as musical director, a fabulous guy, you know, who impressed Claude Michel Schoenberg, no end. Peter Kennedy, wonderful director, like, you know, from a different tradition in Belfast, but he latched on to this, and he really appreciated the show and appreciated the story and appreciated our culture and our heritage in the west of Ireland, and did an absolutely amazing job on it. We engaged Aoife McClafferty to do the choreography, and Karen Ford, who's just, in my opinion, the best scenic artist that I've witnessed in possibly in the country, who was, of course, from local as well. So we had our team in place, and John Rowe engaged the best musicians in Ireland. There's no question about it. Like, it's an unusual score in that you have a harp and a bagpipes and whistle and long flute, long whistle, and uilleann pipes. So there was specific musicians required, and he just engaged and sourced the best ones in Ireland, really. And we had a couple of musicians from the concert orchestra, the National Concert Orchestra, the harpist and the percussionist. So we started to rehearse, and we obviously read the story, and it's a mammoth show to stage.
Yeah, and just like normally, I've heard Peter Kennedy say this before. You would have seen a version of the show before. Well, obviously this wasn't the case here. I don't think he even had a DVD to go on.
No.
Did you find that, from a production perspective, somewhat daunting that you had no benchmark to measure it against?
If it was any other show, that would probably be the case, Washing. But because it was the Pirate Queen, this was ourselves. This was us. You know, we wanted to put our own slant on. We wanted to put a West of Ireland. We told them this. We wanted to put an authentic West of Ireland slant interpretation on the show, and you know, we had O'Malley's in the production. We wanted this to be so authentic. We recognised the score from very early on as being magnificent. It really is. It's just a magnificent score, and a magnificent achievement on the part of Claude Michel Schoenberg, who was Hungarian French, you know, and who created this masterpiece, like, you know, that was so evocative. You know, and if you close your eyes and listen to the music, you could just picture the west coast of Ireland and the landscape and the seascape and the people, and it was just absolutely magnificent score. And so everybody bought into it early on. You know, Peter Kennedy, the production team, the cast was outstanding from start to finish in embracing it, and as a unique opportunity to you know, engage and indulge in something that was really special, and something that was our own story, as I said earlier on. So we invited John McColgan and Mario Doherty, Claude Michel Schoenberg and Alain Boublil, who was the lyricist for the show, to come and see it. That we were so excited about it, and that, you know, we so passionate about it, and we wanted them to see what we were going to do with it. We almost made them promise that they're going to see it, because we were so grateful to them, and we told them that, and we were doing it as much for them as we were for ourselves, because it was a piece that hadn't received the recognition that it deserved. So we said it's vital for us and for you, I think, that you see it. So lo and behold, Claude Michel Schoenberg said he was coming, and so you have the composer, the most successful composer in the history of musical theatre, you know, responsible for the biggest shows in the history of musical theatre, as were John McColgan and Mario Doherty with Riverdance, and they said they'll come to see it and see us. So the chips were down and the pressure was on.
And did you know about this fairly early on?
We did. We knew about it fairly early on, and Ashford Castle were really, really good to us at the time. They had a marketing manager there who's still involved with the castle, a wonderful woman called Paula O'Carroll. And I liaised with her, and they actually, as a sponsorship, they accommodated them for the weekend that they came, and they were just wonderful to them. John McColgan and my daughter would be regular visitors to the castle anyway, but they were actually a great help to us, as indeed were all our sponsors, Irish Pride and all of the other sponsors that we had at the time. We had to pull out the stops in securing the sponsorship because we knew the costs were going to be high. And we knew from early on, because of the interest in it, that we decided we were going to run it for 10 nights, which is the absolute limit for amateurs, 10 nights in a row.
And was there a sense like that, given the year was 2010, that we were in the worst year of the recession, that this would be a kind of a difficult thing to pull off, like to convince people to buy into, like from a sponsorship point of view?
Yeah, I suppose, Oisin, we tortured people, you know. It was a very intense effort on behalf of the committee and the officers, you know, in that we were so excited and so passionate about it, and we wanted it to be a success for ourselves fundamentally, and for Mayo, it was a Mayo thing, and we wanted it to be successful for our sponsors. So we were successful, really successful in attracting sponsors actually. And Irish Pride, you know, we adopted their logo. As I said, it's a matter of pride. And if it was any other show, obviously you'd worry about the costs. But because it was this show, and because we had this opportunity, we just weren't going to let it slip. And whatever had to happen, you know, to raise the funds to stage it, was going to happen. So we actually, the overall production costs amounted to 140,000 because it was 10 nights, and because it was such an incredible set and incredible musicians and everything else about it, you know, and we actually made money on it. We sold it out for 10 nights, sold it out before it opened. We could have, without exaggeration, we could have ran for 10 weeks because we just had to stop answering the phone from before the show opened, because the inquiries were coming from further and further afield. And once it opened, the place went mad with inquiries. You know, people wanted to come and see it because they heard about it. So
and just to bring it back kind of to, you would know, you've told me before, like that you would always try and do the best possible show with the least number of rehearsals, but I believe you started actually preparing the music and the dancing and everything a good bit earlier on this occasion, right?
Slightly earlier, Oisin, slightly earlier. It wouldn't have been a whole pile earlier. Now, you know, we didn't actually have a whole amount more rehearsals, but people were so focused, you know, and we got the most local high quality Sean-Nós dancers, you know, and they were made to be involved in it because, you know, obviously they were going to be performing for John McColgan and Moya Doherty in front of them, you know, and so we got wonderful Sean-Nós dancers involved in it. As I said, the cast were magnificent. Like, you know, they applied themselves so well and grasped the opportunity and were passionate about it and focused, and all of there was an excitement, there was an air of expectation, it was so palpable, you know. And you know, the one aspect of the show that I didn't talk about, which was just incredible, was the set and the building of the set of the staging of the show. I mean, one of the opening scenes is a battle between an English frigate and an Irish pirate ship in Clew Bay in a storm. And how in the hell's fire were you going to reenact that, you know? So that particular scene was actually, we staged it in a snowstorm at night, which was, so we were able to get artificial snow and using lighting and lightning and thunder. And I suppose the centerpiece of the set was the pirate ship, the Graineuaile was the name of the boat that Graineuaile sailed in. And it was built into the stage. It was about a 3.5 ton piece of set. And basically the stage went from a flat performing area to a full blown sailing ship in 20 seconds. And the intricacy of that and the technicalities of that are mind-boggling. But we had guys like your dad, your man, Jerry Shorten from McHale's, who got the ship to rock back and from side to side. We got a guy involved who made a proper sail and rigging for the ship, and like the mast went up and 3 or 4 fellas climbed up to the top of that mast and they swayed back and forward, and the whole thing worked a dream. And McGovern and Doherty said afterwards that the staging of the show, that there were scenes in the show that surpassed what they'd done on Broadway, and they were particularly impressed with the ship. But all of the staging of it, you know, the scenic artistry of Karen Ford was magnificent. It was just so West of Ireland, so Celtic. It was just incredible, and we had a wonderful sound technician and lighting technician as well involved in it. But the guys who built the set, like, and you know, there was a full thatch cottage on stage with proper thatch on it for one scene, and as I said, the sailing ship, and you know, all of the other bits and pieces for the staging were just like, there was one stage where 2 weeks before the show, there's a magnificent scene at the end of the first act where Graineuaile's father, Dov Dara, is killed in battle by the English, and his funeral had to be reenacted. And at that time, a chieftain, the tradition at the time was that a chieftain leader would be placed in a small sailing boat, wrapped in white linen, placed in a small sailing boat. The sailing boat would be set on fire and would be pushed out into the lake, out into the sea. So 2 weeks before the show, we had no idea how we were going to recreate this scene.
And was that an idea you had in your head from fairly early on?
Well, it was a scene we knew we had to do, and we just didn't know. We dealt with every other scene, but this was last, and it was 2 weeks ago, and so how are we going to do this? Where are we going to put Dovdara? Is he going to go up, down, back, forward? How are we going to do it? And Peter Kennedy came up with the idea, and the incredible lads involved in the set came up with the technicalities of it. We made a small little boat, and in which the body was placed. There was a black cloth around the bottom of it going down to the ground, and we actually had the smallest member of the set crew in under the boat, and he pushed it down through the audience. And the real clever bit was it was on fire. We sourced theatrical flame gel in London, which burns at a low temperature, and at the end of that first act, the front of the stage was set on fire, the boat was set on fire, and it was pushed out into the audience, who were bathed in blue light and resembled very much a seascape. And every night it was such an emotional scene, and the full chorus were singing "Sail to the Stars," which was their farewell to their chieftain. And spontaneously every night people blessed themselves when that little boat went down through the audience. People stood up and applauded. It was just, that was special, that scene.
Yeah, I can imagine, yeah. And were you like nervous or apprehensive, or like describe what the mood was like coming up to the actual week of the show? Was there a sense among the cast that you were really onto something special with all the work that had gone in?
There was, Oisín, yeah, there was, yeah. We knew we had the best people involved, you know, in the production team. we knew we had an incredible musical director and an incredible orchestra, and I'll never forget a week before when we sat down and sang through the show with these 16 musicians, you know, a bagpipe player from County Louth and whistle player, two wonderful musicians from Dublin, a concert harpist called Aisling Innes, and a girl from Cork actually, who was a superb percussionist, who played the concert orchestra as well. And it was that's when the real buzz and the real excitement, and just felt it in every fibre of your body. We couldn't wait to get started and to do, because we knew we had something special, you know, and everybody had worked so hard on it and everything had gelled so well, but there was such hard work went into it, in promoting it and getting it, as I said, it was a matter of pride, and we had to have it as good as we possibly could have it for ourselves. We weren't thinking of awards, we weren't thinking of aims, we weren't thinking of, you know, we were thinking of this show, which is set in Mayo, which has about Grace O'Malley, with O'Malley people on stage, the O'Malley name on stage, a couple of them, and this, we had to put the best foot forward, and we had to do justice to the score, and we had to do justice to the people. So there was a lot of pressure, but it just rested easily on our shoulders. RTE were coming to, like, the media took a huge interest in it, and RTE Countrywide, or what's the name of the programme, 7 o'clock in the Nationwide, came and did a feature on it, and RTE Radio 1 came and did a feature on it, and you know, the Director General of RTE came to see the show. Mike Murphy came to see the show. Gay Byrne's wife, Kathleen Watkins, came to see the show, and they all raved about it. So there was this media national interest in it. And I suppose because it had, I don't like to use the word failed, because it didn't get the recognition it deserved on Broadway. People were interested to see, well, what was the show about, you know, how good, what was it like, you know, or, you know, and sure, anyone that came to see it was blown away with it, you know, the music and the production of it as well, indeed, you know. But so yeah, huge responsibility, huge expectation, but it was something that I think rested easily on the cast. We had a fabulous lineup, you know, of local talent. You know, that's another thing. Like, it was cast locally. You know, all of the main players were Ballinrobe, or living in Ballinrobe, being involved with the society. You know, stalwarts that had served the society so well for 35 years, you know, all involved. Sean Costello, one of the top tenors in Ireland, playing Tiernan, and our own Sinead Heenan playing Grace O'Malley. Just magnificent pair together. And the Queen Elizabeth I, played by Sandra Shawkes, received an award for it. Absolutely wonderful portrayal. The costumes was another thing.
Yeah.
And the props, you know, the people involved in those areas, like, pulled out all the stops as well. A lot of the props came from Ardmore Studios in Wicklow, and they were so authentic and real, you know. The costumes came from Scotland, and a lady called June Young, you know, who had, I suppose, the Scottish costume and the Irish costume of that time would have been a little bit similar, but the wigs were all real wigs. There was nothing fake about this. We had to get a lady from Dublin to come and do the wigs, and our own ladies did makeup magnificently. We hadn't to work on accents. They were all they were all, as they should be, authentic, West of Ireland. So the full casting of it, you know, the Bingham, Lord Bingham, played by Richard Crumlish. You know, every person, your own sister Emer was the young Graineuaile, and featured briefly at the beginning of the show with the young Tiernan. And it was a wonderful cast and a wonderful production team, wonderful musicians, wonderful technicians, and the recipe was there. So bring on show week, and the interest was huge. And as I said, it was sold out because of all the media attention. It was sold out before we started. And Ames, all the people involved with amateur theatre around Ireland, you know, were wild to see this.
And of course, you had one very special visitor in, as you mentioned, Claude Michel Schoenberg. Like, to people who don't know, he wrote the most critically and acclaimed show of all time, Les Miserables. Like, what was it like?
Miss Saigon.
What was it like seeing this? Eventually, a God among men, standing on the stage, addressing you and addressing the audience.
That was so emotional. Because, and it was emotional for us because he was emotional. He was knocked out, and what he was knocked out with was the love that we had for his work, and the love. He could not comprehend that we were all amateurs and that we were doing this out of a love of it, and that he said every night he witnessed professionals go on stage and do a wonderful job in presenting and interpreting and his work, but he said he never witnessed the love and the heart and the passion and the genuine love for what we were doing. He wouldn't witness in the professional world. And he spoke to the audience on the night he was there. Such a lovely, gracious, elegant man. And he stood at the bottom of the steps as we came off the stage, and he shook everybody's hand. And he came into the dressing room afterwards and he embraced many of us. And he spoke privately to the cast. And he lauded everybody from top to bottom involved in the production, and he was particularly fulsome in his praise for the cast and the full production team. Mightily impressed with the musical director, and was regretted that he hadn't got the full score of the full overture, because he thought the musicians were incredible, and I think a lot of that was to do with they were Irish. They were reading a score, but they were steeped in this tradition, you know, which, you know, that the musicians on Broadway they wouldn't have been native, you know, they wouldn't have been Irish. So there was that thing about it, and he and McGovern and Doherty were, as I said, blown away with it. One of the technicalities of it, the Sean-Nós dancing, they really took to. They actually said afterwards, you know, if we're doing it again, this is the way we go. They used contemporary Irish dance in their production of it on Broadway. But the Sean-Nós just seemed to work, and it's so infectious, you know, it's such an infectious style of dance, you know, and it lended itself to the score and the music, and of course it lended itself to, and the dances were magnificent in that they, you know, they danced to a kind of a symphonic score, you know, which they wouldn't be used to. They're used to dancing to an accordion, but they were dancing with an orchestra. So I suppose for the cast, there was many highlights, you know, but the two highlights I'd have to say was because we're doing the Pirate Queen. We're telling our own story in Mayo for the first time in the world amateur premiere, with music written by the most successful composer of our time, and McGovern and Doherty, the most successful people in the history of musical theatre, you know. So all these big big, big guns there, and in tears, emotional with what they saw and what they heard, and so yeah, it was a very special time. And so and the other very special moment, which I've alluded to already, was shaking the hand of the greatest composer of our time. He's the Rory McIlroy of golf. He's the the Michael Jordan of basketball. He's just, and seeing how affected he was by what we did, and our efforts. That was very special.
And what did it? You obviously did it for 10 nights, and you would have had maybe 2 dress rehearsals and any amount of singing and dance rehearsals. Like, what did it feel like when it was all over on the Saturday night, when John McGovern and my doctor saw it?
Relief, Oisín, relief that it had gone so well. We couldn't have wished more for it. It was all that we dreamt about in terms of what it did for us. And I get emotional now even thinking about it, what it did for us, the pleasure it gave us, the passion of it. Like somebody said, I described it very well, cousin of mine actually said, when he was at it, he texted me after and he said it was like a passion play. It was tribal, it was it was everything that we wanted it to be. So we're extremely tired, just kind of crashing down afterwards, but so elated, and so we felt that we had done ourselves proud, and it was very important to us that we did justice to the work of these people who have been so generous in placing their trust in us, and we were delighted for them. And the reviews that, and the letters that I received afterwards from everybody concerned, including Claude Michel Schoenberg, were testament to what they felt about it. Cathal Gowan, the Director General of RTE, wrote afterwards. Kathleen Watkins wrote. All these people who, and Mike Murphy wrote to us afterwards, and they wouldn't have done so if it didn't mean an awful lot to them. And Kathleen Watkins went back to Dublin, I think, that night, I don't know if she got back that night, but I think Gay was on Lyric FM the following morning, and he went into a rant. He said, my wife came home and she started talking about the Pirate Queen and that she'd been to see in Mayo, and he just went on and Lyric that Sunday about it, so tired, relieved that was over, rushing. Twas a big ask for amateurs, to put on such a large scale production, but it was worth every moment of it. Like, you can't describe what it meant, certainly. It just got to the Mayo in you.
Yeah, and of course then the roller coaster wasn't over there. Fast forward a couple of months and you received an unprecedented number of nominations for the Ames Awards, which is like the Oscars of musicals, as people know. What did that feel like? That must have given you another boost a couple of months on.
Well, it was the icing on the cake, if you know what I mean. It wasn't all important to us, Oisín. It was wonderful to be recognised by your peers, and it was such a special thing to think that, after all our efforts, it was critically acclaimed in that way. We actually were granted a civic reception by Mayo County Council afterwards, which was very special too. It meant a great deal to us that we were recognised by the people of our own county. The chairman of the council at the time was Michael Burke, who was a Ballinrobe man, and the reception took place in the racecourse in Ballinrobe, and that was a very special time and a very special moment and a very special accolade that would be recognised in our own place by our own people. And this was before we actually got these nominations at all, or the awards that came afterwards. So yeah, we obviously we were looking forward so much to going to Killarney in June for the awards weekend, and it was a time when we could relax and just enjoy the moment, and you know, it was so I felt so good for the society and so good for the past generations of the society, the people who had gone on stage and represented and did magnificent shows and did operettas and with basic orchestras and did magnificent productions in the past, you know, with none of the support or the technicalities that we had at our disposal. So I felt very good for all of the past members of the society that we were being nationally recognised as one of the leading societies in Ireland. And we were nominated obviously for 9 categories, including Best Overall Production. And we were competing, and we were nominated with societies such as Wexford Light Opera Company, Belfast Operatic Society, you know, who perform in an 11 million Victorian theatre. Wexford perform in an opera house which had been recently built down there at a cost 33 million. And here we in Ballinrobe presenting our show on this in a stage which was constructed in a school gymnasium and a venue which had been turned into a theatre, and which was every bit as technical and kind of dynamic as anything you see in the most modern state-of-the-art theatre. So that was a source of great satisfaction as well, that we were, you know, mixing it and up there with societies that we revered and that we had watched over the years win major awards, you know, quite rightly for wonderful productions. So yeah, there was 5 nominated for the overall show category. We were nominated, as you said, in 9 categories, and I suppose the overall production must have won us the last one of the night. It's the Premier Award, and it's so dramatic. The whole awards weekend ceremony is staged by a professional company, and it's just a wonderful audio visual presentation, and you know, with screens and large screens, and you know, we're up there and the show clip from the show, and you hear the music, and just it rekindles all that emotion again, and that, and
so you had
5 citations went out, and then they call third.
Yeah, so you won, I believe, wasn't it, best chorus, best stage manager, and best supporting actress, and obviously best overall, which you went up to accept, and I believe there was best lighting, set and sound in there as well, wasn't that correct?
Yeah, and I think we won the programme that year as well.
Yeah. So obviously, like, the best overall show is given out at the very, very end of the night.
Yeah.
So you're going up to, like, accept this on behalf of the society, on behalf of the town of Ballinrobe. So, like, what did that feel like? Had you any expectations at all in your head, or like what was going through your mind at that point?
It was I enjoyed the moment, Oisín, and as I said to you, I was very, very pleased that we were up there, and that I had no idea that we might win. I knew if something was to beat us, you know, it was going to be very special because our show was very special. But I felt here we are from Mayo, you know, and we did a world amateur premiere of a show set in our own county. As I said, we felt so accomplished, you know, in having done it and done it the way we did it, and received the you know, the plaudits, I suppose, and the recognition that we did. So it was just go up there and enjoy the moment, and if we win, we win. If we don't, we had 4 other awards to celebrate and 9 nominations, and the chorus had one, which was just, it's probably the second most coveted award.
And it's one that would have meant a lot to you, obviously, because you would have picked shows with big chorus numbers in mind over the years, wouldn't you?
We would. We'd be known as a choral society, and we're lucky enough to have a fine body of men who can sing and sing harmony, and we always have the women, and they can always do their stuff. But we have the men, and we were singing these, wonderful songs about Clew Bay and Crowpatrick and Belclare, and as I said, it was all people from Ballinrobe, and here we are on a national stage, about to be recognised by our peers at the highest level. And goodness, when they called out the winners, when they called us out, when we were named as the best overall production, it was just such a special moment, and there was obviously a large group from the town, and the emotion was just incredible. I looked down at the stage and I saw everybody. I don't know how I held it together myself, but because I had a few words to say, but I felt so emotional and grateful and honoured and so thankful and grateful for the that everybody who I knew the effort that people have put into it, everybody had put into it, and I felt so thankful that they were recognised at the highest level by their own peers. So there was a huge glitter explosion, and it's such a visual thing, that the whole awards. But the one regretful thing was that the guy who was recording it forgot to put a hard drive in his video machine, and we didn't actually capture it on video. But there was a huge amount of still photographs taken, and so yeah, we were asked. I was asked about it then, interviewed briefly about it on stage, and the cup was very quickly decorated with the green and red and Mayo, and the flag was. It was such a Mayo thing, it was just, and that's what made it so special, really, Great to win the overall best overall production in the 32 counties, and that's great. But to win with your own story about one of your own people, just very unique circumstances, and it was just like if all the stars aligned,
And how long did the party go on for that night or that morning? Longer than usual,
it went on into the morning, and we got a wonderful reception in town when we came home, and again the media were very interested in it, and Midwest and the local press and all that took a great interest in it, and it made the front page coverage on all of the local papers, and prominent in the photographs was the Mayo flag and the ribbons on the cup. So yeah, we had a few good days and nights after coming home, and then we let it drift away, as you have to. But the memories will never drift away. Never. For anyone that was involved in that show. And we had a lovely evening. It's about, let's see, it was midsummer. We decided to get a couple of the 3 members of the orchestra came back to Ballinrobe. Right. They fell in love with Ballinrobe. I think it was four of them actually, a quartet. Came back to Ballinrobe on a midsummer Sunday evening, and they did a little recital in the Balkenburg of the music from the Pirate Queen, and it was lovely just to go and in a subdued, quiet environment, listen to the music again, played by these superb musicians. And that particular night was dedicated to, and it was to one of our members who had been really ill during the Pirate Queen, and that was Katrina Gibbons, who was a very much loved and very valued member of the society, and still is. And Katrina had a bone marrow transplant about that time, and we were all, concerned for her well-being and her health. And thankfully, and of all that happened that year, the best thing that happened was that Katrina recovered, and she was there with us that evening. I think she was there that evening. But anyway, the evening was for her, and it was just it was nice to indulge in the music again, and to know that we've been on such a journey, but the most pleasing and the thing that we were most thankful for was that Katrina made a full recovery. He's still actively involved with the society.
And just to conclude, I suppose, if there was one moment out of all the special moments you had during the show that you'd like to relive, say tomorrow, what would it be if you had to choose?
The finale of both acts. The Sail to the Stars. Just you couldn't tell anyone about it. It was the staging of it, and the emotion of the cast. Singing this farewell to their much loved chieftain, leader of their clan. So that, and so many other musical highlights, I suppose, but particularly the finale then, of the show.
There's kind of a connection between the two of them. There is that they're mourning a chieftain at the end of Act 2, and there's sort of coronation, a new chieftain at the very end. And the show ends with the words, "God bless Ireland, may there be peace in our land."
Yeah, those lines, singing those lines, maybe God bless the bride and groom, and God bless Ireland. And it was so wonderfully directed by Peter Kennedy, and that we were all side on to them.
That was his idea, was it?
Yeah. And just on God bless Ireland, we turned front. And the adjudicator said there was something primal and tribal and magnificent about it, and it was sung with such gusto and such passion, the full chorus. And then the curtain call was set to a blend of various pieces of music from the show, and it was danced and choreographed, the curtain call, and it was so effective where certain parts of the stage were lit up with different people, and the set, for anyone that saw it, it was like you were standing on the side of Croagh-Patrick, and you were looking out in Clew Bay, like when it was lit the way it was and painted the way it was just so real. So the standout moments, musically, the end of the first act and the end of the second act, and so much in between as well, of course, and the whole satisfaction of singing about Mayo, in Mayo, for the first time in the world. Yeah, that was very unique, Never happened before, and when would it happen again, to have a world amateur premiere of a show in the county where it was set. John Colgan and Mario Doherty, you know, anyone that heard them on the final night, they were so emotional, and my daughter in particular, you know, and these people like had witnessed huge theatrical moments all around the world, you know, with Riverdance, and here they were in Ballinrobe, and I remember John McGovern saying, "This tonight has healed much of the hurt, much of the disappointment that they'd experienced with it, you know, that they saw the value of it that night, and the worth of it, and yeah, they were very kind and gracious before, during, and after." Yeah. So, yes, we did the same thing again. I don't think we'd ever do anything that is kind of authentic, or, you know, kind of.
Yeah, the fact that you were like the first ones to do it as well too, and kind of set the benchmark for it as well. You know.
Yeah, but the music, like, it's such a shame that it didn't, you know, go where it should have gone. You know, it should have. I consider it up there with the score is just magnificent, and you know, the some of the songs in the Woman to Woman, which is the story of the show, you know, which was sang by Graineuaile and Queen Elizabeth I when they met, you know, and this magnificent song where there's a certain animosity between them, obviously, but there's a grudging respect for each other, and that both were, you know, existing in a male-dominated world, you know, and both kind of railing against convention, and that grudging admiration and respect for each other. That song, wonderful, and there's the If I Said I Loved You, that's love song with Tiernan and Graineuaile, sang by Sean and Sinead. Jesus, it was just, and the musical accompaniment to it, fantastic.
The Sea of Life was another.
The Sea of Life. I actually asked Claude Michel Schomburg what was his favourite musical excerpt from the show, and he said The Sea of Life. Yeah, The Sea of Life. The lyrics of that as well, and you know, again, it was sang by the male chorus.
Yeah.
Led
by a woman as well.
Led by a woman on the pirate ship, as it sailed, as it, you know, drifted from side to side, and sailors in the rigging. Jeez, and you know, beyond that, it was so lifelike, you know, because it was rocking back and forward. You just thought you were on. You thought you were on the sea, you know.
Yeah, I suppose with the fog machines and everything.
Fog machines, and there was you know, even a wind machine built into a turbine built into the wheelhouse, so that, you know, when Graineuaile went to steer the boat, or any of the pirates, you know, who all had long wigs, their hair flew back, you know, as if they were in the breeze.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so little. There were so many little moments like that made it so authentic and believable. And
yeah, and like there's a video on YouTube the first time you assemble that boat. The video is 4.5 minutes long, but you only have 1:10 in the show to actually do it. Like, that's how long the piece of music is before the start of, I think, the second scene. Like, how many times, just use that as an example of the amount of effort that went in. Like, how many times would you have rehearsed that? There was like 10 or 12 men involved.
Yeah, we rehearsed that an awful lot, Oisin. That was choreography. That was choreography, because there was people working on stage, there was people working under the stage, actually, you know. There were certain guys picked, and they rehearsed that scene, and they choreographed it, and there was maybe 10 guys, and each one knew exactly what they were doing. So the first time we tried to assemble create the ship, it took us over a minute. We brought it down to less than 20 seconds. I think around 15 seconds we used to have it go from flat stage to full blown sailing ship. The sides came up, the prow came up, the mast went up, the sails went up, and fellas started running up the sails, and then the big trick, it started to rock from side to side. You know, so it was a magnificent feat of engineering, and you know, again, you know, it was all amateurs. We were all amateurs on the stage, working on the set, and it was trial and error, and you know, if it didn't work, do it again.
But the fact that you were doing something like between the Shannos dancing and the boat rocking and everything else, the fact that it was been cast by people from the area who were descended maybe from some of the characters, like the fact that you were doing something that had never been done before, was that kind of what drove everybody on?
That's what drove everyone on. That's what motivated me from the beginning, Oisin, with us, you know. I always felt that Graineuaile was under-celebrated in that she was an extraordinary figure of Irish history. Extraordinary figure. You know, an incredible woman who did the craziest things and survived. And she was a woman before her time, you know, that stopped the ships, Spanish ships coming into Galway, and said, well, you pay a tariff to American, you know. You know, sorry, I digress there now. What was the question again?
Oh no, just the fact that you were doing something that hadn't been done before, that you were putting so much of your own spin on it, like you maybe felt a bit kind of less pressure, that there was nothing really to compare it with, like with the Shannos dancing and everything, like
we felt, you know, we told John McColgan and my daughter the first day, we can do this different to anybody else. We can put the most authentic slant on this because we are people of Mayo. This is about one of our own, set in our place, and we can. And as I said, we emphasise that we'd like to use ask them if we could use the Shannos dance, and they said it's yours to do with what you want. So yeah, it was a matter of pride. It's the slogan, the logo of Irish Pride at the time was so apt. It was a matter of pride, you know, and it didn't really matter about awards or accolades or recognition, as long as we could do it justice, do ourselves justice, do justice to John McColgan and Mary Doherty and Claude Michel Schoenberg for their generosity in granting us a license to perform it, and being so gracious to come and see it. It was very special for us that they were so affected by it. They were so moved by it. And you know, like in subsequent interviews, I heard them talk about it on radio, you know, about the experience, you know, of the Pirate Queen in Ballinrobe. Yeah, so.
Yeah, was there anything you say at any point that you kind of, because it kind of does happen in every production, that you kind of struggled with a small bit maybe? I remember you told me once before that you started loading in the timber on Christmas Eve in to get ready to get working on Stevens's Day on the show when it was minus 13. Was it them kind of
minus 18?
Was it them kind of moments that you, it was cold, but was it them kind of moments that you had to really just think of the bigger picture?
Yeah. Look, there was a huge amount of work on it. It consumed my life for the best part of the year, my spare time, you know. It really did, you know. It was, and you know, because we knew once we were granted permission to perform it, that we had to pull out the stops. But yeah, that moment, Mick Sweeney, Tom, John Mahan, myself, 4 of us, with a huge load of timber, 36 8x4 sheets and a heap of heavy trusses on a trailer at Dunleavy's, and we tried to pull off with my Jeep and failed, 4-wheel drive. It was minus 18 and there was about 9 inches of snow on the ground. couldn't pull off. Put a van in front of the Jeep, and the two failed to get it moving. Put a car in front of that, McSweeney's car. So between the van and the car, anyways, we got the Jeep moving and the trailer, and we got it on a bit of a slope, and I said to the boys, now, we can't stop now. Go over ahead of me now. We can't stop until we get to the school, because if we stop, we won't get going again. So we had to plough on over with the 4-wheel drive and this load of timber that we needed over the Christmas period. Like, we started the set on Stephen's Day. You know, we took Christmas Day off and we started the set on Stephen's Day, where there was nothing done, and we were opening, 5 weeks later. There was and the apron had to be constructed, and so that was and we delivered the load of timber. Thanks be to God we got to the school with it, and we went and we had breakfast, and that was Christmas Eve 2009, and we took Christmas Day off, and we got at it on Stephen's Day in just starting to thaw at that stage, but still -10 maybe.
Yeah, and you were at it pretty much every day from Stephen's Day till when you took the set down again.
Every weekend, yeah. And it was great to see it, progressing, and to the production values, the work of Peter Kennedy, his vision, and his creativity, his artistic streak, was stamped all over the show. But I'll always say that for a man who came from a different tradition in Northern Ireland, in Belfast, he has such an appreciation of this story and our culture, and really did it full justice. John Rowe, wonderful musical director.
It's just, I mean, like, how many shows had you been in? 22 at that stage? Like, it was just, it really all came together for that one, didn't it? Like,
It did, and as a result of the 9 nominations, and we were catapulted actually we became the foremost ranked society in Ames land, in the 32 counties, because we had received so many nominations, including that was the mid-year, but the year either side of that were also nominated for best overall production. So it was just wonderful to win just once, as the Saw Doctors say. It was lovely to win, but it wasn't that which gave us the most satisfaction. What gave us the most satisfaction was doing it, and doing it the way we did it. We were pleased. We were really, really pleased that we knocked all we did out of it. That we felt we did everyone justice, and you can't ask for any more than that. The cast, I'll never forget them. They were just magnificent, and it was a huge ask to do, as you said earlier, 10 shows, two dress rehearsals, and all of the rehearsals before that took an ordinary amount of time, and the weather was desperate, like, for part of that.
Wasn't there one rehearsal that heat in the town hall and in -10 outside?
Jesus, it was just.
Would many, I know you're obviously, it's very special to you, but would many of the cast still talk about to this day that you'd meet, like, that were involved?
I think all of the stalwarts, the ones who have been involved for many, many years, like I said, there was, the Pirate Queen was. Look, we had some fantastic musical experiences, particularly with Chess in 2000, or Titanic in 2008, Chess in 2009, wonderful music, and musically a very, very high quality production, and of course Ragtime in 2005, which just everybody fell in love with from the get-go. So they were very special shows, and you know, equally, well, hugely rewarding. But again, I come back to this thing. This was Mayo. This was Graineuaile. This was, we were singing about Croagh and Clew Bay, and you know, about our own place, and we're the first in the world to do it as amateurs, and all these people were coming to see it. So it was